In John 10:10, Jesus makes the startling declaration that he came to this world to give us life and life abundant. And when our ego hears that line, it gets all excited because it thinks about all the things that Jesus could bring us. Houses, cars, the latest electronic gadgets, relationships. Here's the thing, though. The kind of abundance Jesus is talking about doesn't have anything to do with things or material possessions. The Greek word for life is zoe. Here's your Greek lesson for the morning. Zoe. Which means to have vitality, to have fullness of life, to have energy or a life force. An abundant life isn't one filled with things. It's filled with energy. It's filled with fullness and an all-encompassing sense of just being fully present to everything in this world. So what do you have, jubilance, in your abundance right now? Love, compassion, mercy, empathy, sympathy, health, time, talents, wisdom, skills. Some of us may actually be abundant in possessions or money, but the question then becomes, are you possessed by your possessions? Do you use them to bring more separation in the world by hoarding them, or are you creating unity by sharing them, giving wastefully? We are here, jubilants, to be abundant in life, to be abundant in light, to be abundant in love, and to know that these are the things that never run out. And the more and more of these things we give into the world, the more these life-giving things return to us, sometimes even in more abundance than we gave out. Jubilance, this world, this bodily world, it appears to be one of lack. It appears to be one of limited resources, and that's the world that the ego would have us believe in. But there is a better world, and it's available 24/7 because we carry it around in our heart and our mind all the time. This is a world of abundance where we never lack for anything, because we know that if we give life, if we give energy and love and peace and joy, it comes back to us in many myriad ways and powerful ways, ways that will make you say, oh yeah. Hello, my name is Candace, and I am a book addict.
Hey, Candace.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I must have owned well over 500 tomes that I crammed into like 2 or 3 bookcases and spilled all of its contents out onto the floor with the excess. A meme on Facebook explains my addiction quite well. It says, buying books and reading books are 2 different hobbies. Another apt meme depicts a pretty girl that's walking toward the camera while a guy walking in the other direction is like turning around to admire her. And the girl holding his hand is like looking at him like incredulously, like, what? The pretty girl coming towards us is captioned, new books at the bookstore. The guy is captioned, me. And the jealous offended girl with him represents the unread, untouched books I have at home. You see, I may have read only about a quarter of the books I still own, and that might actually be a generous estimate. I used to feed my addiction by going to the Friends of the Library sales, and often I'd end up buying 2nd or 3rd copies of a book I already had on the off chance that I didn't have it. A couple of years ago, I actually culled my collection. It was like a Sophie's Choice, trying to get rid of your babies. I sent at least a dozen boxes to the library. Now, the challenge is to not go back to a Friends of the Library sale and buy back all of the books that I donated. Really? Right. Anyway, come on, I'm not alone in... Oh, right, yeah. I'm not alone in this. I joke about this addiction, and it seems a bit trivial in comparison to the very real and life and soul-damaging addictions that others struggle with. But it's an example, even a lighthearted one, about how we are all haunted by what the Buddhist tradition calls hungry ghosts, or preta. These ghosts are depicted with long, thin necks. They have tiny mouths and bloated bellies, and they are insatiable in their desires, but they find that if they even manage to eat or drink something, They're never satisfied. Or they don't get the food at all because it will burst into flame or rot before they can even try to eat it. The hungry ghosts represent all of our desires that we either repress or try to satisfy in myriad ways, only left to be feeling more empty than when we started. We're like the big-eyed fish who dreams to be a bird, to chase something that's never going to give him true satisfaction, not the true satisfaction he could really find if he just accepted that he was meant to live his life as a big-eyed fish. And this is how the ego twists around our ideas of abundance and desire for satisfaction in the world. It constantly keeps us looking for things we don't have, convincing us that we're not going to be happy until we possess that thing or that quality or that status or that power or that relationship. We cannot be happy with whatever we have at this moment, whether it's books or other possessions or money or prestige or even the talents and skills that we already possess. But we feel like they're inferior somehow to what others have and what others can do. But you know, the ego, it sees the world as transactional. If I give you this, I get something else in return. It never, as A Course in Miracles tells us, it never gives from abundance because, A Course says, it was made as a substitute for it. The ego was made as a substitute for abundance. This is why the concept of getting arose in the ego's thought system. Appetites are getting mechanisms, representing the ego's need to confirm itself. This is as true of body appetites as the so-called higher ego needs, A Course says. Our ego is a hungry ghost. And the ego's motto is seek but do not find, which means it can never be satisfied. So it has no abundance from which to give anything to anybody. There's never enough for the ego. So it sends us out into the world as hungry ghosts, trying our best to satisfy our cravings and our desires. And we may find a nice morsel every now and then to satisfy us. But soon the hunger comes back, and it comes back with a vengeance, and we suffer. We're constantly trying to satisfy ourselves through our bodies, but as A Course reminds us, the idea that this is possible to satisfy ourselves through our bodies in this world is a decision of the mind, which has become completely confused about what is really possible. So what then is really possible? Well, true abundance is really possible. The mindset that no longer sees lack or limited resources or even feels the need to look outside of ourselves to satisfy us with something out here. And the reason we can do that is because we know without a doubt that everything we need to experience love, joy, and peace in this world is already within us. It's just there waiting to be recognized and put into use. We all have the gifts that we're not recognizing and not using in this world, and we think gifts have to be something grand. I have to go out and change the world. I have to be on the forefront of all these movements and be this big force. And so we discount the gifts we really have. We think gifts such as the ability to listen deeply to others or hold a loving space and be present for them and ourselves. We think those gifts aren't valuable. But we all crave that. We all want to be heard. We all want to feel the presence with each other. We think our ability to offer small kindnesses, like a smile or a kind word or even a simple gesture, hold the door open for somebody, allow somebody in front of you in line at the grocery store, we think that doesn't mean anything, but that is gold in this world of tribalism and division. You already have within you, Jubilants, an abundance of gifts that can change this world in amazing ways. If you would just take the time to recognize them, see them, embrace them, and extend them, start practicing them. Like all those unread books on my shelf, within each of us is all the wisdom and knowledge we will ever need, but we don't take them off the shelf and read them. We don't think they're good enough. But imagine how much wiser I would be if I read every book I own. Imagine how much more joyful we would all be if we took the time to read the wisdom and love and joy and peace that is already written on our hearts right now. The ego, though, it's not interested in that knowledge or that wisdom or love or joy or peace. It says, go buy another book that you're not going to read full of wisdom and love and joy. But you're not going to read it. Ooh, there it is. It's pretty on the shelf. It's nice. We'll dust it off now and then. I'm not going to read it. The ego, it's a hungry ghost. It wants us to believe we can only be satisfied by buying the book. Don't have to read it. Believing this lie is what the Buddhists call the first arrow that leaves us feeling wounded by our sense of deprivation and lack as we fruitlessly seek for peace outside. And then the Buddhists say the ego shoots the second arrow, which is the arrow of shame. And so we are shamed and scolded for our failure to find peace where we can't find it anyway. This is how we become trapped in our ego's cycle of seeking and not finding, and then we beat ourselves up for failing to find what the ego is going to keep hidden from us anyway. But the good news is, Jubilants, we can break the cycle and begin enjoying the life that we were meant to lead as wise, big-eyed fish who know that flying is already available to us if we just embrace the abundance that we're swimming around in already. Breathe deep. To avoid that ego's second arrow of suffering, a Course gives us a simple remedy: projection. Right? Right. And we tend to think of projection as negative, mainly because when it is a function of the ego, what we're projecting into the world is simply more of our suffering, more of that shame, more of that despair and dissatisfaction and grievance. We're like the man who refuses to breathe until the world outside of ourselves looks just how we desire it to be. And it's true that projection is how we can so efficiently bring our ego's misery out into the world. But a Course says projection is also how we shine forth that light of love, because the Holy Spirit uses projection to give from its holy abundance, while the ego uses it to deprive others of something and promote the idea of scarcity and lack. So we can use the projection of our mind in two different ways. We can create scarcity, or we can create abundance. You have the choice. The best vehicle for getting rid of our hungry ghosts and creating a sense of abundance in this world, both in our inner and outer world, is this: generosity. The ego would have us hang on to everything and anything that we think will bring us happiness from the outside, whether it's books or relationships, status, power, prestige, wealth. But Holy Spirit knows that giving and receiving are exactly the same. So when we're willing to let go of our spirit of lack and stinginess, our hungry ghosts disappear. They are fulfilled. Letting go of our painful ideas of lack and scarcity is the essence of generosity, says Buddhist nun Pema Chodron. Pain, she says, is always a sign that we're holding on to something, usually ourselves. When we feel unhappy, when we feel inadequate, we get stingy. We hold on tight. Generosity, she says, is an activity that will loosen us up. By offering whatever we can, a dollar, a flower, a word of encouragement, we are training in letting go. And the ego tells us, of course, well, if you let go, you just lose everything. But Spirit reminds us that letting go of anything the ego says is valuable is the best way to gain everything. Because we have finally put to rest the hungry ghosts who are out there endlessly seeking that satisfaction in the world, and they are not finding it. Generosity, though, I understand. I completely understand. It feels scary. It took me a long time to come up with a generous spirit. I used to be very stingy. $1? Pfft, get out of my face. That's my dollar. Honestly. I wouldn't give anything So it feels scary. I get it. Because in the world of possessions, we can see that if we give something away, then we have less of it, or it's gone completely. We have given it away, like books or money. If that's too scary for you, though, let's not start in the realm of possessions. Let's back up and just start in the emotional realm of hungry ghosts. Because the Course reminds us that whatever we feel is missing in any given situation that we are in is exactly the thing that we are not giving. So if you're feeling lonely, why not give some companionship to someone else? If you're feeling sad, go cheer somebody up. If you are feeling shame, phone up a friend and tell them how awesome and inspiring they are to you. If you are feeling lack or feeling deprived, go outside and count the blades of grass. Go out at night and count the stars, count the leaves, witness the ongoing abundance of nature that surrounds you, like that big-eyed fish. It's ignoring all of this water, believing that the air would be much, much better. If you're feeling angry with the world, try giving some love. Show some care, show some concern, even for a stranger. Don't ask about their politics or their religious belief or their worldview. Just love them. If you're feeling in despair, give hope to someone else. If you're feeling helpless, help somebody. If you're feeling fearful, give someone else some courage. If you're feeling worthless and unloved, tell somebody else how much you value them, how much you love them. Look, jubilants, at how much you can already give the world. And you're not depleted one bit. You are a veritable wealth of abundance. You're just waiting to be unleashed on the world. So the question is this: what is missing from your world right now, jubilants? Because whatever it is, that is what the Holy is asking you to become an open channel for. So the eternal source of whatever it is you're missing, love, encouragement, kindness, it's just asking you to be open for that to come through. You can't do it. Your ego will fight you every step of the way. But when you get the ego out of the way, when you go, look, I'm lonely, so I'm going to go be a companion for somebody else. And the ego goes, but no, we love being lonely. We get special treatment when we're lonely. Everybody feels sorry for us, and we like that. Be the open channel. Just move that out of the way. None of it comes from you. Instead, this is just an invitation to connect more deeply with the Holy within, that higher divine self that already swims all the time in a sea of abundance, just waiting for you to allow it to open the floodgates. Both the big-eyed fish and the man who refused to breathe, they failed to see the abundance they already had. They yearned to be something different, to be somewhere different, thinking that somewhere outside was going to satisfy their hungry ghosts. And it's true that we are called to become something different in this world, but not by getting, but by giving. And remember who we truly are, not trying to escape the truth about ourselves. We are the light of the world, jubilants, and we cannot shine if we seek to become anything other than that light. Remembering this, as the Course says, is a decision of the mind. You got a choice. Nothing outside of ourselves needs to change before we make that decision for love, for light. As that mystical Sufi poet Rumi tells us, all we really need is grace. The grace to just surrender that ego self and step into that holy love that brings about our awakening to the abundance that we're swimming in all the time. Rumi says, this is how a human being can change. Here's some instructions. There's a worm addicted to eating grape leaves, and suddenly he wakes up. Call it grace, whatever. Something wakes him, and he's no longer a worm. He is the entire vineyard, and the orchard too, the fruit, the trunks, a growing wisdom and joy that does not need to devour. Hear that good news this morning, jubilants. You are the vineyard. You're the whole orchard. You're not a worm addicted to grape leaves. You are the entire universe. There's no need to desire and devour just that one grape leaf when you own the whole place. As a bookworm, I value the wisdom in the tomes I own, but in reality, I am already an entire library of wisdom and abundance because I am intimately connected to the entirety of all wisdom, knowledge, love, and peace, and light. And so are all of you. The most powerful thing any of us can give this world jubilance is that sense of connection. That feeling of unity to each other. That's something we all crave. It's something we all feel is lacking in our lives, and it's something we have in abundance and are already invited by the Holy to recognize and give it away wastefully. Every moment. Just be giving light. Just be giving love. Just give it away. It will never, ever be depleted within you. So instead of trying to satisfy your hungry ghosts by gorging yourselves on things of the world, why not just dive into the abundance of the universe that's inside you right now? If you begin to study and soak in that peace and love and joy and wisdom of that infinite world within, you will finally awaken to the abundance that you are swimming in right now. And oh my God, the only thing you're ever going to want to say when that happens is, oh yeah.